Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our LinkedIn Live today, which talks about nearshoring services to Lithuania. We have a great set of panelists, the four of us joining us today. If you have already joined, which I'm seeing a lot of us are joining at the moment, please do drop in the comments where you are joining in from. For example, some of us are from Lithuania, some of us are from India. We will start with the introductions probably in a minute from now and give time for every one of us to join. And yeah, look forward to this particular session. Okay, I see many of us are joining in right now. If you're joining in now, then do let us know where you are joining in from. What do you want to hear today? We already do have an agenda in place, but we are also open to your questions that you might want to understand about nearshoring services to Lithuania. So do please drop your questions, your queries as well. And yes, also please do let us know who you are, where you are joining in from. For example, Gunjan and I, we are joining in from our India office today. So nice to meet all of you. Maybe we can get started with the introductions. I see a lot of us have already joined. So I can go ahead first, maybe. So I'm Sumit Kumar. I'm a practice director here at Everest Group, leading our practice on locations and workforce optimization. As part of this practice, we work with clients, members on topics related to their entire location strategy, their talent strategy, their workforce optimization exercises, and we have different type of membership constructs. It can be either a custom clients with whom we work. We have a lot of members as well with whom we work. We advise clients on 350 plus locations globally, so cover the entire ambit of the IT BPO services delivery landscape. So nice to join this particular discussion along with my panelists. I really look forward to the discussion today. Uh, Evelina, do you want to go next and maybe introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Everest team, first of all, thank you so much for, doing this event and for inviting me. This is my first one, so very much excited. Um, I'm Senior Investment Advisor at Invest Lithuania, and we are actually an official government agency, which is under the Ministry of Economy and Innovation. And basically, our job is to connect, inform, and help foreign companies to set up in Lithuania. So that's our goal.
Thank you so much. Nice to have you over here, Evelina, and thank you for joining in today's discussion. Laura, do you want to go next?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, thank you, Summit. Thank you, Gunjan, for inviting me. So, as you said, my name is Laura. I've been working in global business services industry for the better part of the decade, and for the last 2 years, I've been leading Altradomus Lithuania here in Vilnius, our global business services practice here.
Nice to have you as well here, Laura. Awesome. Nice connecting with you. Gunjan, do you want to go next? And maybe then we can get started with the overall discussion agenda. I see many of us are joining in from UK, Spain, Lithuania, some of us from India. So yeah, Gunjan, over to you, please.
Sure. Thanks, Sumit. Hi, everyone. This is Gunjan Mundra from I'm Senior Analyst with Everest Group. I work alongside Sumit in the locations and workforce strategy team, majorly focusing on helping clients with their workforce and location needs, some of the price benchmarking practices as well. Looking forward to the discussion.
Okay, thank you all. So maybe we can get started with the agenda for today's discussion as well. Just letting the audience know that we are also inviting in the questions from their end. So please keep on those questions coming in. We are happy to answer your queries around the nearshoring of IT BPO services in Lithuania, and that's the intent of today's discussion as well. So we have prepared a few slides, but obviously we'll try to keep it very conversation oriented as well. So this is part of our series, Let's Talk series, in which for the current version, we are speaking on the Lithuania's overall nearshoring services landscape. So what we want to start this discussion with is the overall overview of Lithuania global services market. And that's what you will see on the next page, that when we talk about the overall breakdown of services, the global services delivery from Lithuania, now it is around, by end of 2023, there were around 28,000, 29,000 full-time employees working in the global services industry. So already quite a mature location in providing an array of services. And the services is not limited to, let's say, only IT or only the business process services. So both of them are being driven from the location. Yes, we have seen a lot of work on the finance and accounting side. We have seen works going on cybersecurity side. A lot of work is being done on the fintech side, supply chain, procurement. So an array of global services delivery is happening from Lithuania. Uh, the country's global services landscape has had a good growth over the last 4 or 5 years time frame. And the CAGR at what we have seen the country grow is at around 3.5 percentage. And that momentum is expected to continue for the coming few years as well. Now, that was only the now installed talent base, as in the number of people who are working in the industry. But if you look at the delivery centers, and by the way, we are looking on both sides of the houses, whether it's service providers or the third party vendors, or if these are the in-house centers, or we call it as shared services, GBS or global business service centers, or GICs, global in-house centers, the terminologies may differ. So both of them extensively leverage Lithuania. What we have seen, however, is that the share of GICs or GBS or shared services is on the higher side when we compare it to the service provider. So the sourcing mix side, the buyer side of the house, has a higher share when we compare it to the service suppliers over here. Evelina, you are best positioned to answer one of the things which keeps on coming as a lot of time to us around the scale, scope, and growth of IT BPO services delivery landscape from what you're seeing on the ground. Your views would be really helpful to the audience over here.
Sure, absolutely. Well, Sumit, you've actually covered very well our growth trend. If I could just add, if we looked at, let's say, last 10 years, let's say from 2014, you would see that our industry actually has doubled in numbers, both in FTs and both in the number of companies that have chosen Lithuania. So the growth was roughly 13 to 15% per annum, which is very sustainable for Lithuania. But what we see that the real success has been the maturity of the industry. So we've evolved from somebody who was just chosen for customer operations primary to owning end-to-end processes, to co-creating that strategic value for the HQ. So that's what we're seeing, that more centers are establishing centers of excellence. And as you've mentioned, in the fields like cybersecurity, for example. Also, maybe it would be interesting to know about our investor profile, which is very multinational. Back in the day, over 50% was basically covered by the Scandinavian market. But right now, over 38%, we have the US presence. But that does not mean that the Scandinavians are no longer important for Lithuania. On contrary, they actually employ the biggest share of those 28,000 employees that you've mentioned. And another final remark, because we've just released our survey, which is going to be live in 1 hour. And in that survey, we've asked our community, what are your growth plans? How do you see what's going to be happening in the next 1 and 2 years? So over 62 of respondents said that they're going to add new functions, and in particular in the emerging fields, such as AI, software development, and data sciences. So it seems like, we're for sure going to see more growth in the industry, and not only from the functions base, but also from the markets that are covered from Lithuania. So if Europe is now dominant, For the last 2 years, we saw that Lithuanian GPS centers are also serving Asia, Africa, and the number of northern US is increasing. So that would be probably my insights from the latest data.
Thank you so much, Evelina, for providing that insights. Now, we have been tracking these locations for so many years since the inception of the entire sourcing model. So we have seen definitely how different countries have grown, and Lithuania's stories is also of its own. One question that we have received is very similar to what you were talking about, but specific to maturity and availability of data engineers, data scientists, AI architects. Now, I understand the reasoning for this question as well. Many a times the question does arise on you have the talent, but when we are talking about the complex part of the business, data engineers, AI architects, how is the talent landscape looking for them? Do these centers deploy that type of talent as well?
Absolutely. And we as a government agency, we've actually been taking steps to have this talent because usually you can feel what's emerging, right? Where is the need? So back in the day, we've launched a initiative to upskill and reskill over 20,000 people. So government has funded, over 80 million euros was allocated for that, and it is specifically for those skill set in, let's say, in data science, because we know that the demand is growing. So since 2023, that's when the program was launched, we saw that companies were able to use government vouchers to have the subsidy, to send their employees to be upskilled. So I can say that our industry in the last 2 years became way more mature, and there is actually the depth and the knowledge of data engineers, data scientists, AI architects. AI is still on the rise, so we now even have a master's degree new programs that are being developed because there is a need. So what I want to say, if you tell me that you need 1,000 AI architects right here, right now in 6 months, I would say, okay, maybe we don't have it, right? But I mean, we're working towards that, and the maturities keep increasing. And for this, I'm actually thankful to our centers, and I believe Laura from Alter Domus will also tell about her initiatives, what they do. But centers even have inside schools that they train for this, in-depth knowledge. So for sure, Lithuania is known for its maturity in this. And regarding the pricing, I'll be able to give you prices literally in 1 hour. Once we release the report, you will be able to see what's the margin in our two cities, both in Vilnius and Kaunas.
Excited to hear about that report, Evelina. All the best for that report launch as well. Now, with that, the next theme that we wanted to touch upon, and again, it's an adjacent theme which we were just talking about, and the most important maybe, it's around the talent landscape, how the talent is looks like in the whole of Lithuania. Now, definitely, it has a good enough of fresh graduate pool that is coming in on an annual basis, around 20 to 25,000 fresh graduates. Good amount of universities, colleges. The attrition rate is also reasonable when we start comparing it to some of your other locations in Europe as well. Multilingual delivery is something that we have seen Lithuania being leveraged for. And the work delivery doesn't only happen in English. There is work happening in German, Swedish, Italian, French, Spanish languages as well. Now, what we know about is that these are only the primary delivery language, but beyond this, work happens in Polish and Russian language as well. So that type of talent availability is also there. Plus, in terms of tertiary education, so the country has, I think, a very highly educated workforce. And Evelina, we were referencing to your report in which we understood that over 90% of the employees in the GBS industry, they hold a tertiary education, which is a remarkable number itself. Now, we have been talking so much about the country, but if you take a city lens, Vilnius definitely is the major city, the major hub, but Kaunas is also experiencing steady traction of late. It has come up as an alternative to Vilnius. It's very close by in close proximity as well, and it's less saturated than Vilnius. So that is also a location that has also become particularly appealing, especially for new entrants who are trying to enter into the market and achieve the scale faster. Definitely, you have some very global brands over here, be it in the GBS side, for example, the likes of Citco, Dexcom, Dancy, Nasdaq. We have listed a few names over here. And equally on the service providers side, likes of Accenture, Cognizant, HCL, Guidehouse, IBM, Teleperformance. The large ones are here. So yes, it's an established place altogether. You have your players, you have the talent, you have the fresh graduate pool. The attrition rate is reasonable. Now, with that, actually, Laura, the question that I have for you, and I thought of asking you initially as well, that why did you choose Lithuania as a location in your portfolio? And if you can comment on the quality of talent as well, because
Mhm.
many times the question comes to us, to Laura as well, is that we do a lot of location work with our clients and members. So the key question comes is, why Lithuania, let's say. So why did you choose Lithuania? Because that will help the audience as well to understand that when you were starting your operations over there, what was going on in your mind? Why did you choose Lithuania? How was the quality of talent? What were the differentiators for you while choosing Lithuania? So if you can comment on that, Laura.
Yeah, super. Thanks, Summit. And maybe just initially for a little bit of a context in terms of what Altradomus does. So we are alternative investment. We basically work in an alternative investment area. So we provide services to largest private equity, real estate, private debt funds, and fund managers globally. Anything from accounting, legal services, tax compliance, etc. So kind of everything that an administrator does for these type of companies. Globally, we have 5,000 people, mostly in Europe and US, but we're also significantly growing our presence in APAC too. So not to go into too much history, but back in 2020, the company decided that we needed to open another center, basically to support the significant growth that the company was experiencing at the moment. We had around 40 locations in Europe overall on the long list. So there was quite a lot of, locations that we were looking into choosing as well, willing down that to around 3 top contenders, where Vilnius was obviously one of them. And it basically came down, I would say, to 3 key moments. First and foremost, as always, for pretty much every single project, it's obviously the talent, very much as you asked them. And so we were looking into a couple of critical elements within the talent. So we needed people who have very good English language skills. This was very important because a significant portion of our employees do interact directly with the clients on day-to-day basis, on the phone, via email, and it's quite complex, financial topics that they need to cover, or regulatory topics. So we need a certain level of English for that, and just the breadth of the financial understanding. So we needed people with accounting skill sets. We needed people who understand the complexities of compliance, AML, and adjacent sort of finance skill sets as well. And we're confident that we can find those people in Lithuania. Another, again, a very important moment, and whenever you look into Central Eastern Europe, we probably always think about that as well, is the cost effectiveness. So obviously, they're quite Lithuania per se is not a fun hotspot per se, but we knew that we can sort of take the skill sets that already exist in Lithuania, train them on the additional gaps that might be existing, because there isn't a massive fund industry in Lithuania where we could just kind of go in and tap into, but we knew that this really made sense from cost perspective as well. And there's a breadth of talent, which is cost effective, as I mentioned. And the last, but definitely not the least moment, was the environment overall. So because we do take in quite a lot of young people straight from universities, we wanted to have partners here that we could go in, talk about curriculum, maybe add some electives on fund management, fund administration, so we could have that direct connection with them, as well as partners on the ground like Invest Lithuania and other governmental agencies, in case we see that there is a gap in funding in education, other areas, that we can come to the guys and ask to be part of the sort of industry creation with them together. And this is what we found in Lithuania, and we're very content with that. So over the last 3 years, we grew to over 350 professionals, mostly in the field of finance.
And thank you for explaining it so well, Laura. Now, this is what we typically cover in a locations engagement as well, the way you were explaining. For example, we cover the entire side of the talent equation, how many you can grow in a year's time, the cost of the location, salaries, and the environment, for example, how good the support is from the government, from the agencies, the stability of the location in general from an operating business standpoint. Thank you for providing that. Now, one adjacent question to this is, and I understand some of this was also coming in the comments when I was seeing through it right now, around the breadth and depth of talent. For example, when you're saying that you wanted to enter, you wanted to have some resources working in finance, for example. Is it like the work is on the less complex side, or you also have work streams which are being done on a higher complexity end, for which very specialized training program were given or very specialized skill sets were required? What has been your experience based on your different GBS networks? How is Lithuania's position when you talk about complex skills for the skill sets that you might be looking for?
Mhm. So whenever you talk about these things, it always comes down to a specific skill set, specific functions, right? There's probably never a single location that can provide 100% in terms of both breadth and width, talent and skill sets for whatever center wants. So we were specifically focusing on finance because this is obviously the industry that we work at. In terms of complexity, we do everything pretty much that is done in headquarters as well, depending on some regulatory things that we need to cover as well. So the complexity is there, but we were also looking for the breadth of talent to tap into young talent that is really willing to learn and understand and want to be active part of the company. So that was very, very important for us as well. And I think the important side of the things that especially for the key leaders of the functions, right? Managers or senior managers, we found people with extensive experience. So in some cases, these were the guys that, for example, came back from working for private equity funds from London. So we were able to hire them to help them to be the core of the team and to grow. And then we can take the young talent in terms of either young officers or interns straight from university, upskill them to where they're already really functional after, let's say, the first 3 months of training in the company. And that's why we have a specific team within Alter-Domus that is mostly located, to be honest, in Vilnius and provides services globally from here to the other units as well that we call Academy. So these are the learning and development guys who say, okay, this is how your first 3 months will look. Then we need to upskill you over the 6 months to know that. And then you're, let's say, are looking to enter your second stage as, let's say, senior officer, and etc. So understanding that career path, making sure that we have both in-house training from the other key colleagues that we have here. And obviously within the field of finance, there's always new things happening and coming, new regulations, because we cover lots of different locations as well. So we need to make sure that we have that outside training, which is being, again, governed from that team here in Lithuania as well. So I think whenever companies think of, let's say, breadth of the talent, it's very important to understand that you will need that core team. And the long-term goal is to be able to take in young people, upskill them, and get them to your company as well. And this is kind of probably the most sustainable growth strategy for any company coming either into Lithuania or, to be honest, probably any other location. And just because let's say we're not a super massive location, right, where I would say we're in just that sweet spot of a sort of mid-size, mid-maturity, we can still talk easily with the key universities here, attract the top talent, as well as with the government where we need to. So it's the interplay of all of these factors that are important, I would say.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Laura, for providing that perspective. I'm sure the audience must have received some wonderful perspectives from your end around why did you choose Lithuania? What sweet spot does Lithuania have to offer in general? As you mentioned, a location may not provide everything that you're looking for, but how you can leverage the location to the best capability and how are you using it? That will be quite insightful for the audience as well. Evelina, Laura was talking a lot about skills, and she mentioned some academy programs as well. I understand as a government agency, in general, the government also maybe having some talent and skill building initiatives in place for the IT BPO industry. Uh, do you have some? And if you have, can you just throw some light on that? That what are some of these initiatives in play?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I believe I've briefly already spoken about that upskilling and reskilling, where 80 million euros, were dedicated. So just to give you maybe a bit better detail, not as complex. So imagine I work for NASDAQ, right? And I want to now to be upskilled to become a data scientist. And training could cost, let's say, up to 4,000 euros. So the government would give you a voucher and you would choose the education institution where you go with that voucher and you get upskilled. And usually if you're somebody who is working, then the programs are done in this way that you can take classes at the weekends or in the evenings. For those unemployed, of course, there is another additional incentive so that they could support themselves financially while they're learning that needed skill. And then after I don't know 4 or 6 months, when I gain that skill, Nasdaq employs me back, and now everybody wins. We have upskill talent, and our let's say company has what they needed. So that's how we, continue that continuity. We call it lifelong learning. But that's for the more like a more value added roles. Every literally individual in Lithuania can receive 500 euros and get some maybe, softer skill, some kind of language training or anything. So those initiatives are being constantly introduced, how to train the talent. Also, we had some initiatives when we needed to increase the number of AML specialists. So we have Anti-Money Laundering Center of Excellence who provide other certificates. And I believe in 2 years, we've, gave the certificates to close to 9,000 people. Then there was for the last 10 years, there was been huge focus on the cybersecurity. So we also have, a national agency, giving the depth and the knowledge when it comes to the cybersecurity. And of course, what helps is that our centers also are seeing the value in the talent, and then they bring their expertise, let's say from their global centers, and they just relocate it to Lithuania. And that's how we're building the industry. So that will be probably the few when it comes to the talent, the core ones. But just to give you perspective, given that for Invest Lithuania, it's very important not just to attract companies, but to make sure that they can grow here sustainably. So, each company has their own advisor that they can speak to anytime, at the government level. And we hear what are the needs way in advance. So based on those needs from the companies, we're trying to implement those initiatives. So our, the Ministry of Economy and Innovation constantly comes up with new initiatives every few or so years, what is now in the demand. So we're very open to, to keep developing our business environment in general.
Okay, great to hear, Evelina. Now, I also see in the comments a lot of questions coming up on the cost of operations and things around the overall operating and business environment of the location as well. So, Kunjan, do you want to take that particular section up, and maybe Laura or Evelina can answer some of the questions as well that is coming in the comments?
Sure. So maybe before posing the question, I can walk the audience through the cost as well as risk profile of Lithuania. Like Laura did mention some of it during the questions she answered, but we know that financial proposition as well as risk profile both are critical factors when any organization is looking to select a location apart from talent availability. So if I talk about financial proposition, Lithuania does offer significant cost savings as high as 55% over London and maybe some tier 2 US locations such as Dallas as well. If I talk about the annual wage inflation rates, they are comparatively much lower as compared to some other peer locations in the European region, standing at maximum 6%, which I see has reduced from being around 8 to 10% in 2023. So maybe I'll come to you, Evelina, later on the reasons driving this change. And further, if I talk about the risk profile of Lithuania, it offers significantly highly favorable risk environment with very investor friendly environment, high quality infrastructure, both in terms of IT and telecom, and even in safety and security, it has significantly higher ratings. Now, we do have one question regarding operating in business environment with Lithuania being bordered by Belarus and Russia. And so, Laura, if you can help the audience understand what is the impact of the situation on your operations in Lithuania.
So maybe first of all, speaking from Altardomus perspective, because we had almost no exposure to Russian or Belarusian clients from the perspective or the business perspective, right? It was minimal to none. It was mostly concern about the well-being of employees here, kind of the trust and the security of the country. And this is, I think, important for all of the guys who are thinking about coming to Lithuania. It's a little bit of kind of the elephant in the room question, which sometimes not politically too comfortable, but this is the reality that we live in now, right? So what we've done to establish trust in our location, first of all, I was glad that our C-suite flew into Lithuania, sat down together with employees to ensure that we're looking to grow in Lithuania no matter what. We're here to support the country, to support the guys who are coming from Ukraine here and looking for job opportunities as well. Now, from the broader Lithuanian perspective, I think it's important for people to know, because maybe this is not something that's most often discussed, but Lithuania is, I think, very resilient in this situation. First of all, we're fully independent in terms of our energy needs, which is sometimes a very contentious political issue, especially in this part of the Europe, and to be honest, even in the Western Europe, right? So when it comes to, let's say, the gas supply, it's fully done through our LNG terminal, which is very much which is named Independence, sending some sort of a message as well, I'm sure. When it comes to electricity needs, we're connected with the grid with Scandinavian countries and Poland. So when it comes to energy, there aren't those kind of moments where sometimes you could put on political pressure on their countries as well. It's important to note that since independence, all of the governments, including this government that we have now, are fully pro-European, pro-business. We never had any kind of, flirtation in any kind of meaningful way with pro-Russian, pro kind of terrorist moments or pro-right moments that you can sometimes see in European or other Western spaces. Lithuania has been one of the most pro-European Union countries as well in terms of the politics and the population as well. And even with sort of the background of the war, which is horrible, this year, Lithuania, especially the younger part, so under 30s, were named the happiest nation in the global happiness report, which sometimes is surprising for us as well. In the East, we tend to be a little bit, kind of negative and grumbly. It's part of our, national character, I would say. But it's easy to feel the optimism, especially from the young people. We now have opportunities that, for example, our parents' generation never had, to go to study abroad, to work for international companies, to be fully part of sort of the Western culture that we always felt a part of. But now we just don't have those sort of political restraints to do that. So from that side, I think we know where we are, we know where we want to be. So politically, even militarily, we've never been as safe as we are now, even though it's kind of ironic given the situation, and all of the security major country eyes are on these borders as well. And sort of a little bit of a sad, but sort of a little bit of a plus to Lithuania as well, is some of the incredible talent that we've received from Ukraine. We do have Ukrainians working in Altardomus who came with great English language skills, accounting skills that we were able to blend in seamlessly into, local population here. And we hope that this partnership will continue on. But I think from the security standpoint, political or technical, we're definitely know that we're in the safe zone here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Laura. I think the situation might seem different from the outer side lens, but thanks for providing the on-the-ground experience to our audience.
You see, we've always been on the border there, so we know how to deal with these things. I know for the West, it might be a little bit of a new thing, but here, no, we were not too surprised. So we're a very resilient nation in that side.
Yes. Thank you, Laura. So Evelina, we would want to understand. Sorry, so Evelina, if you can provide some information on the incentives available for companies to set up delivery centers in the location.
Oh, absolutely. That's my favorite topic to speak about. But just a small disclaimer. Everything comes with terms and conditions. So, I'm just joking. But okay, just to give you a broader overview. So probably the first one is that for a certain scale project, government actually provides cashback benefit on the employment costs for up to 24 months. So, once the company decides to invest in the country, we will always say that we're here for the partnership and we're here to help, to scale quickly and comfortably based on the company's needs. So that's probably the core. But then other one important one is that we have also financial program for talent relocation. So not only those that relocates to Lithuania, like the employees can be reimbursed for relocation cost, but also the companies can receive a compensation, for finding that talent, because there might be additional costs when it comes to migration and etc. Maybe providing additional benefits. So there is a package that the government supports that. So it's not only the burden on the company, and in this way we also increase our talent pool with much of the diversity. So like on the similar note, continuing the topic of a talent, so we can even, I could say, even incentivizing sustainable migration. And it's from both technical point of view, how to, let's say, cut the time to obtain the blue card, how to cut the processes to get, the visa appointment and etc. But also to the bit how to integrate the talent. And for this, we even have a department at Invest Lithuania called Work in Lithuania, and as well as we've built the network of international houses. So international house, this is something that now is run by the municipality of the cities. So if you're a foreign national, you can literally just enter one building and receive help from taxes to explaining to you how to navigate through the country, what bus to take and etc. And they're trying, to implement as many languages as possible. Also, what we saw that there was lots of talent coming, for example, from India. And where we had to integrate that talent. So the reality is maybe it's the man who gets the job initially, and then but the whole family comes in. And so what we do, how do we integrate them in the society so that they feel comfortable, they have their hairdresser, and that they're just part of the community. So that was super important for us. And in the last 5 years we saw more people coming to the country than leaving the country, and especially the number, not just Lithuanian nationals like expats returning, but also foreign nationals. So something that we're super proud, but as I said, we're doing that in a sustainable way. So that's probably the core. And I could continue the list on and on, because there are zero tax incentives on some discretionary benefits. There are some rent-free periods, but we tailor each case to the company needs. So, it's not just like you're getting the standard bundle and off you go. We really tailor the material, and we hear, what's the need? Maybe you need to relocate the talent, and how can we assist on that? So we're always, trying to hear out the client needs. And I did mention that quite a lot of time, but, Invest Lithuania is the partner that, is there from day one. And it's very important that you are successful once you, decide to invest in the country. So that probably would be the core.
Thank you so much, Evelina, for providing insights on that. I'm sure this must be very insightful and helpful for our audience. Next question would be to Laura. So I wanted to understand, we understand the cost effectiveness of the location, but I wanted to understand how the cost has moved throughout the years since you started the operations, and how wage inflation has impacted the costs for your organization.
So I mean, it's sort of a little bit, I guess, of a cop out from a direct answer. But again, as always, it kind of really depends on the specific functions you have and the kind of talent you hire. So obviously, in this neck of the woods, it's not a secret that we did have some wage inflation, just mostly tied in with the overall inflation that we had in the region, and to some extent that was felt in the West, I'm sure, as well, and in India probably too. So our strategy was to identify the key talent that we for sure need to hold on to, because they have some either very needed technical knowledge, client knowledge, or basically people that we could not lose and focus in making sure that those guys are comfortable in particular. And then, of course, seeing what we can do additionally to employees that we have, making sure that they feel comfortable, they're as little impacted by the price increases as much as possible. Now, we were relatively a newcomer to the market as well. Back in late 22, 23, where probably the peak of the inflation happened, at least in Lithuania. So we did not have like a massive gap to the industry at the moment, which sometimes is more of a problem for more established centers, where you just kind of start lagging and you lag more and more as you kind of grow compared to the market. So we're sort of in a favorable position. But to be honest, that was not in any sense really profound. This is realities of working in some markets. We knew coming into the country that, let's say, compared to some Western locations, the overall wage growth is higher. But obviously, it's simple math. You start at a significantly lower base, so there's a favorable environment still there, even some years past the initial establishment. And good thing in Lithuania from regulatory side compared to some other locations where we're present is that it's relatively liberal. So based on your company situations, you can decide, what you want the increase to be. In some other locations, for example, like Luxembourg, where we're significantly present as well, it's government mandate salary increases. So there's nowhere for you to go, whatever the situation is. There's a standard you need to keep up quarterly. So, there's a little bit more sort of a liberal environment in that sense to decide when to do it, how to do it. So you kind of talk to the managers of the other centers, feel out what's happening, making sure that A, you do the best you can for your employees, but B, stay competitive as a company as well, which is important, obviously.
Thank you, Laura, for providing that perspective. Now, just wanted to call out that we also have an offer for our participants who joined us today. They can download a complimentary abstract of one of our flagship report, one of the Everest Group flagship reports that we work on, the location workforce cost piece. It's called as Global Location State of the Market 2024 Key Trends, which talks about the entire offshoring, nearshoring landscape across not only Europe in general or Lithuania in general, but globally, be it Africa region or the Latin America region. So the entire landscape, and this will be a good abstract read in order to understand how the report has shaped up. So you will have the link to download the abstract in your comments right now. So you can download it from there. I see there are a few questions flowing in, but before going into the questions, Laura, again, question to you. And we have talked so many good things, and it's good to hear the good things always. However, I understand when you started your operations in Lithuania, or even right now, there might be some challenges as well that you might be facing. It may be specific to your GBS or maybe specific to the overall industry. But what are some of the challenges which our audience should be aware of when they're trying to enter Lithuania as a market?
Yeah. So throughout the years, I've seen, tens of centers being established, Lithuania and in other countries in and around the region. And sometimes companies themselves don't really want to hear, but it's in most cases, it's really not about location as much as companies think. They sort of, sometimes there's a feeling like we will partner up with consultants, we will do an incredible site selection process, right? And then everything is done and dusted. The key for any company is the preparation within the company, understanding, what is the expectation and the vision for the center, 5 years from its establishment, 10 years from its establishment, right? Are my functional leaders prepared for the transition of certain functions? Are there some other key challenges in the company? Are we, at the same time doing SAP migration or some other major changes which might make the establishment of the center even more challenging? I would say 90% of success is within the preparation of the company. We've definitely seen, and I'm sure Evelina can attest to that as well. Sometimes very similar, let's call them projects, right? Similar skill sets, sizes, languages, regions needed to cover. They're sort of very much the same, but one is doing very nicely, right? They're growing according to their expectation. Everything is going fine. And another 2-3 years from the establishment, they're still struggling. But it mostly comes actually not from the location. It's sometimes only very specific small teams that you couldn't find some niche skill sets. Other than that, it's mostly on the leadership of the company and of the center. So I would always advocate finding a really strong local leader who really knows the market, knows all the partners, all the in and outs, have done it before. So they have all of those, pitfalls that they jumped over or they fell into and climbed out, and now they're recreating stuff again, right? This is very important because let's say the client knowledge or the company knowledge, you can supplement that by sending somebody for, let's say, half a year to be the right hand person for the new center, right? To just make sure that that connection is there. The second super important thing, and again, sometimes I feel that it's very much overlooked, is the training and preparation to train the people. Both might not be as necessary on some technical skill set, but let's say the client knowledge, whether it's properly documented or there's, I don't know, some Peter and Paris that you need to ask, and suddenly there's 300 people who have questions about that client to Peter, right? So you as well need to understand that there will be a process for this. You need to document it. You need to give proper amount of time and exposure to key people in order for that new team in Vilnius and I don't know, in Prague and Warsaw to keep up with that information, right? To make sure that it's well understood, that there's some cultural training in some cases as well. That's very relevant to Lithuania. I'm sure it's relevant to India, to Western countries too, making sure that we're sort of on the same level as well. And another thing that I think quite often companies overlook, especially when we see sort of mid-sized Western companies coming into the, let's say, more eastern regions of the world, is employer branding. They sometimes still feel that there will be the cool guy in the room because it's sort of the Western company, right? So will be sort of sexy in that way, it'll be enough. But the reality is that, you could have been the first mover 20 years back, but now the landscape has very much changed. We, as you saw on the initial slides, we have guys like Nasdaq and Moody's who are very progressive, incredible, complex functions, etc. So you need to find your niche where you'll be the most attractive employer, so you can get that top talent, top leadership. You can connect to universities with the guys from the programs you really want. So think about it in a kind of a more complex way. So just to kind of summarize, after you do the location selection, the work just starts, to be honest. Sometimes, it's the breath of fresh air for the project team, etc. But now the actual work starts, where you need to do a lot of dirty work and preparation, etc. But then the center comes out successful in the end. So yeah, challenges are as in any other location, but the key goal to sort of key nail to hit is in fact the preparation for the center before you in fact start the hiring the people.
Thank you so much, Laura. Evelina, one question that has been coming as a consistent theme, and I can see the comments, is again back to the talent side of the things. People do want to understand is that, yes, Laura talked a lot about finance. You talked initially about data scientists, AI architects. But what about the transformation resources like project manager, change management individuals, or even skill sets and let's say engineering, HR, customer support is again because you have multilingual operations. I know I used a lot of these things together, but if you can just talk about the overall talent landscape, not specific to IT itself, but overall beyond that, how is the talent landscape in Lithuania?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I'll try to be as concise as possible. Lithuania in general is known to have a diverse and highly skilled workforce. That probably every company that enters would tell you that they are actually quite surprised. That sometimes juniors at the other location would be more of the senior or so. I mean, like the junior, exceeds the expectations, what they get in terms of the talent. And that's probably because, lots of have very highly educated before they even, get their first job. So that's one of the reasons. But speaking about the talent, so I would class it in a few sections. So first of all, it's IT and software development. So we have a quite an abundant talent pool. It's been growing by 13% annually for the last 10 years, meaning right now we have over 70,000 specialists in ICT only and 94,000 specialists in finance, economics, and management roles. That's just perspective because from GBS, there's other talent pool, right? We have startups, unicorns, you name it. And if speaking specifically, let's say IT and software development, Lithuanian talent is quite known for its web and mobile application development, cloud technologies, and system integration. Going very into specifics, then finance and accounting. We have to be thankful for our giants like Danske Bank, Western Union, Alturdamus, to injecting the fund administration part of the accounting, to bringing the complexity, to the other level. So this is something, you can commonly find in Lithuania. And then rightfully, like Sumit, you said, from customer operations, that's where we started. And we still do have a skill set of having multilingual talent. So English, of course, is more or less like given. Then German language skills are the second most popular, followed by the Scandinavian language. So sometimes destinations are drawn to Lithuania because they can find an accountant who can speak Norwegian, and to provide all those services in the Norwegian language. So which is pretty unique in a sense, right? So these are easily available skill set, I would say. If I had to highlight, some challenges, and not just to brag that everything is easy and you will find any talent. So as at the beginning, I did mention that if the company were to come here and tell me that they need 100 Dutch-speaking engineers in 6 months' time, that would be a challenge. But that does not mean that we don't have Dutch language capabilities or engineers for that matter. We do. It's just sometimes the combination might be, difficult, and we have to align the expectation of, what the location could provide here and now. And if I had to pick up in recent profession that I believe it's a bit harder to find, it will be probably blockchain developers, because what we're seeing lots of success stories in the blockchain startups. But if I had to compare blockchain development depth of the talent, it's not as deep yet as in comparison to IT and software development. So, but for this reason, we have 80 million, and we keep upskilling in those, emerging fields. So don't understand me wrong that we don't have a talent. We just meaning more on the depth side. So I hope that answers the question. And it was about the project managers. So I would class them towards a talent pool that we have. We have amazing leaders, and this is once again thanks to giants that provided huge leadership skills for our talent. Just look at Laura. You have a young talent who runs a 2.6 billion worth, of assets site, and this is pretty amazing. So the talent pool, also very important to mention in GBS, is roughly 32 years old on average. So, and there was a very nice question about how we can attract talent from abroad. So if I quickly just may, I would encourage everybody, just go and work on Lithuania page, and you will see it has all the steps about how can you relocate to Lithuania. And as Laura said, we're one of the happiest, so 20 happiest globally. And for the young people, so if you're under 30, you're number 1 happiest, so you have a happy life here in Lithuania. And you can see all the job descriptions, all the brands that we have, what they offer. So the process is quite straightforward, and we're truly encouraging. Like, we're doing seminars in Brazil. We're flying to Brazil because lots of Brazilians are actually applying in Lithuania. Lots of talent from Africa is applying to Lithuania. And we're trying to create an environment in which, we increase that talent pool. So if you're a blockchain developer from Peru, please apply. I'm just using the audience.
Okay. Thank you so much, Laura, Evelina, for sharing your experiences, on the ground experiences of operating from Lithuania. We have already started receiving some congratulatory messages from the today's audience. Just for everyone's reference in the audience group, the recording of this entire session will be live on LinkedIn right after this particular event, and you can go through it in your free time if you want to revisit some of the sections. Our email coordinates, including Laura's, Evelina's, Kunjan, mine email coordinates, will also be available. And in case you want to drop us a note or speak about any topic further in detail, we are always happy to connect. Nice to have all of you. Thank you for joining in. And again, thank you, Laura and Evelina, for your sharing your experiences. Have a great day ahead, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you
guys.
so much. Bye bye.